7-18 רמת קושי לעשות קקוש בלי צבע על קרע מבאמצע שכונת בקשיש פתח את הפס עם מוקש 15-5 מטר תן בקבצ'יט שדוחף לך הרי אתה מסיים במערכת משנת עולמי חברי את המוקשים למסגד לקחתי ועל ארגז הצנחתי או שבהיתי נתתי ואז הצמדתי או תליתי תפחתי חייכתי צעקתי מי השם אליי השם גם פרסתי בקשר משקפיים שרשרתי איזה מוקש משגע את הבניין יזעזע חיברתי הכל טוב טוב איזה יופי.
Israeli comedy is so psychotic, dude. Yeah, they're putting that in a mosque, by the way. I do not understand, like, how Israel is the least funny nation on the planet. Like, how did this happen? This is, like, almost as offensive. The lack of comedy and the lack of humor in this ethno state, in this religious Jewish supremacist ethno state, is so devoid of any fraction of humor that it's almost as offensive as the ethnic cleansing and the continuation of the ethnic cleansing. Obviously, ethnic cleansing much worse, but that's how bad their lack of humor is, and it blows my mind, okay? This isn't to minimize the impact of the atrocities, but this in and of itself is also an atrocity. If Israel wasn't doing an ethnic cleansing campaign in Gaza and were pumping out these kinds of content, this kind of commentary, okay, I'd be like, no, that's a war crime that should be tried under the International Criminal Court. Matt Leap said this on his podcast. Somehow Israelis are actively the most unfunniest, even though Jews in America actually have humor. Yes, dude. That's it. Like, the contributions to comedy from Jews all around the world, with the exception of Israel, is so significant. And then you look at, like, Israel and you're like, how is this possible? What happened? It isn't to say that, like, all Jewish people are funny in general. Of course not. But still, you don't got one funny motherfucker in Israel? What's happening? How? It's because they're all right-wing over there. Right-wing comedy is always terrible. Yeah, I mean, this is straight up, this is stuff that, like, even the most aggressive, gross Daily Wire watcher is not going to laugh at this, okay? If you're in America and you're like a Daily Wire watcher, you see this, and even then you're going to be like, oh, that's kind of gross. What are they doing? Cap, this is literally Daily Wire humor. Bro, dude, I'm telling you, even Daily Wire is funnier than this. Here, let me show you another one. It's just like, what is humor in this regard? Just like being the least funny you could be?
מה? אתם רדואן?
מה אמרת?
אמרתי, כן, אתם נראים מדובדבן.
שוקרן יא חביבי, איחנה מן דובדבן.
מדניה! מה? אתם צרים? מה אמרת?
אמרתי, אני עושה כלים. בוא תעשה קפה.
יאללה, תעל, עשיתי. ליאם! מה, זהו, חוזרים?
מה אמרת?
אמרתי, יאללה, זוז, אני רוצה להרוס בתים.
אח שלי, כבר שרפתי אותו, בוא.
That's sick, man. It's just classic misdirection, I think. Speaking of comedy, this doesn't even work as like a joke. Like, it doesn't have the structure of a joke. Now we have moved beyond someone attempting to do a joke to not even being able to construct a joke. It doesn't make any sense. And I don't get it. Their humor makes their ethnic cleansing possible, is required for the maintenance of their state. No, it's so bad. Like, this is worse than Babylon B, dude. I saw a Twitter thread the other day about how genocidal regimes can only find unity through dehumanizing outgroups, and it can only get more and more depraved over time. It just feels so weird. It's like when you stumble across something, like a culty part of the internet, right? And you stumble across it, and you look at it from the outside, and you're like, what the hell's going on here? Like, they're having a great time in the in-group over there, right? Like, they're yucking it up, okay? It's a real yuck show, okay? They're yapping, they're having a great old time, and then you look at it from the outside and you're like, you're filthy and gross. Like, what? That's so weird. Why do you operate like this? What? Like, look at yourself. Kind of like your entire year recap. Not necessarily. I was thinking about that as I was saying it, but like, at least there's like things that you can point to in the end of the year recap that like everybody understands is like fun and cool. Every in-group has a level of what I'm describing, but this is way beyond, right? This is like objectively an evil and immoral thing to do, and most human beings understand it as such. I mean, guys, this is like the American military did a better job of ensuring this kind of stuff doesn't happen in Iraq and Afghanistan, which it still did, right? But they did a decent enough job of like hiding it. You think military veterans or active duty combat service members don't have dark humor? I guess they do, of course. But this is like Abu Ghraib happening every day and being blasted on TikTok with the nation state celebrating it and welcoming it with open arms. okay, while simultaneously the rest of the world is looking at it and going, that's insane. An opinion about war is a dynamic thing, no less than an opinion about a restaurant. Remember how Rimini Pizza was considered gourmet in the 80s? You wouldn't eat there today, even if it was served the same pieces and emek cheese and mushrooms from a box, because there are tastier and healthier alternatives. The war was also reasonable and justified on October 7th, but we are not on October 7th for a long time. We drowned in Gaza like we drowned in Lebanon. Another tunnel, less tunnel. The overall picture will not change. Nothing stolen is returned in a heroic operation. Hamas does not evaporate. The Palestinians are not immigrants. At the same time, unpleasant to say, we ourselves became living. No rape in 2023 justifies the destruction of a mosque in 2024, especially since the destruction does not solve the problem, it only makes it worse. 2 million Palestinians live in Gaza. The more we destroy them, the more they will hate us, and rightfully so. And we haven't talked about the economy that is being destroyed, about the normal life that has disappeared, about Bibi not going home with the usurper government, and about a general feeling that we have turned into a jungle. Security is an important thing, but it's not the only thing that is important. Even a normal life has value, which is sometimes worth compromising for. I oppose the continuation of the war in its current form, because even if it adds some security, it's not worth the price. See, that's what it is. Do you understand? Like, this is an Israeli person who's like, yeah, no, it's valid to attack Gaza, but the reality is, like, you're not giving us security. That's an important change of reference, important frame of reference, and an important shift. Now, obviously, if you're looking at it from the outside like we are, I mean, I know that that's not going to be giving additional security to Israelis. It never was, and it never was supposed to. The notion that Israel makes Jews all around the world more secure is a ridiculous one. Israel can't even make Jewish people in Israel secure with its actions, right? With its consistent actions. If Israel genuinely cared about permanent security and made that its main goal, then they would have followed in the legacy of Yitzhak Rabin instead of assassinating him and then, voting in his those who championed his assassination, right? Like, the only way to ensure permanent security in the region was through cooperation and a pathway towards accepting a Palestinian state with a right to return. They never did that and continued expanding in the West Bank because they ultimately wanted to maintain their ethno-state goals. That is not done at the interest of security for Jews around the world, and certainly not even Jews in Israel. Israeli comedian and soldier Guy Hochman posted a video on social media where he can be seen playing on the sea on a beach in Gaza where he claims everything is ours.
אי אפשר לבזבז כזה מזג אוויר. הכל שלנו, שימו לב, תראו איזה טיילת, ועכשיו, החוף של נובה. החוף של עזה! שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. From Israel, we want to do peace. Where are you from?
He's like, get out of here. Get the fuck out of here. Normally, you'd be like, wow, that's anti-Semitic, dog. But then you're like, well, I mean, look at this dude's attitude. What's happening? It's basically the difference between, like, people constantly chirping at black people about, like, anti-white racism versus anti-black racism. One is institutionalized, systematized, and dealing a tremendous amount of violence to a captive population. The other is a result of that violence and experiencing that violence where you develop a negative attitude towards those who are often perpetuating said violence or legitimizing said violence until proven otherwise.
Afghanistan, wow, you are very stupid. But you lost to Saudi yesterday. Sorry, from Israel. I can teach you how to beat Arabs. Women beautiful. What? Not so much, not so much. Why? Why are you so? I'm Israel. Where is Israel? Where is Israel? You have Israel. Only Palestine. No, this is Israel. No. We will fight to death to bring our hostages. But you know what will be the picture of the victory? The victory will be when Gaza will go in fire.
Is this guy dead? No, he's not. He's very much alive. What he has killed, however, is not Gazan civilians, but instead specifically comedy. He has murdered comedy. He has specifically destroyed the concept of comedy. He's liquidated it. This video is disguised as comedy, but the main objective is to show Israeli how much Muslims hate Israel despite the attack and the hostage situation. No, I know what he's trying to do. He's trying to be like, oh, I'm from Israel. Look, see, I just went over here. I mean, dude, this is like, what this guy is doing is yet another version of like right-wing trolling, right? I'll bring it back to the United States of America for you to be able to comprehend it. What's that guy that goes up to like AOC and is like, nice ass? You know what I mean? And then like tries to get himself in situations where like people yell at him. I don't even want to say his name, but it's basically that Nazi guy. It's basically the same. It's basically the same as like right-wing trolling, Steven Crowder style right-wing trolling. You try to get people to yell at you to show how hysterical and silly they are. to go, oh, look at me. I'm just a small bean guy. I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything at all. That's it. That's his job is trolling at this point. And yes, rage baiting. That's his goal. Because he has no way of like creating anything humorous in and of itself. Here's an attempt at creating something humorous by Daniel Ryan Spalding. Let's take a look.
To the sea. Hi, I'm Mr. Daniel, and this is my friend, the purple-haired girl. She's not a bad person, but she's been radicalized to become a raging Jew hater, and we want to help her.
Hello, Zionist pinkwasher.
Purple-haired girl, I heard you chanting.
Yes, it's my favorite song. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
I see. Do you know what that means, purple-haired girl?
Yes, Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib explained it's a call for Palestinian freedom.
Do you know which river? Do you know which sea?
The Ganges to the Indian Ocean, the Caspian Sea.
I want to die so bad when I see stuff like this. This is self-harm, I think. Watching any attempt at like humor that is pro-Israel, pro-Zionism is unironically self-harm, I think. Okay, I would rather watch SNL. Dude, it's really bad. It's so bad. But there's a lot that's funny here, at least in the analysis of this, right? Like, where's the humor in this? Where's the joke? The joke is that, I guess, blue-haired liberals are now purple-haired, okay? And the woke SJWs are Jew haters. That's the joke. Because they don't want Israel to do an ethnic cleansing campaign. That is where the humor is, I guess.
Actually, it's something Hamas terrorists chant, and it means the complete destruction of Israel from the Mediterranean Sea to the Jordan River and the genocide of the Jewish people.
Well, I don't mean it like that.
The funny thing is, like, or the issue is, like, if Israel is not doing an ethnic cleansing campaign, I think you have more mileage and bandwidth to make normies feel as though you're the victim here. But because Israel is so openly, loudly, proudly declaring that they're doing an ethnic cleansing campaign and they love it, when you turn around and you say, well, actually, defending yourself against this ethnic cleansing campaign and the apartheid regime is actually offensive and violent towards Jewish people, that means you want the ethnic cleansing of Jews, you're, for no reason whatsoever, making people in the edges agree with positions that are inherently violent towards Israel and towards Jewish people across the board. There's no reason where you ever have to hand it to people who might have genuinely violent opinions and interests. It's akin to saying, like, what Israel's actually doing and what Israeli officials are actually saying that they're doing and what Israel is actually genuinely defending, ethnic cleansing in Gaza, is actually blood libel. When you say that, and because anti-Semitism is a permanent bigotry, it is a bigotry that is very pervasive. It's the oldest kind of bigotry, too. When you take the very real instances of blood libel and you try to put that into a situation where there is no blood libel happening, when people are just genuinely, accurately describing the situation in front of their eyes, you all of a sudden end up muddying the waters about blood libel in general. Let's continue watching this nuclear grade enriched uranium cringe.
Hey, purple-haired girl, when someone doesn't acknowledge a trans person's pronouns...
That's transphobic.
Yes, it is. And when you ask a person of color where they're actually from...
That's racist.
Right. And when a Jewish person tells you not to use a chant that's associated with their genocide...
That's Zionist oppression.
That's sick, man. Yeah, the difference is, like, when a white person says cracker is the worst slur that they've ever heard and tells you that you shouldn't do that, that framing is completely devoid of any kind of power structure. Israel is completely separated from Jews and Jewish people and anti-Semitism. Israel is an oppressive apartheid regime currently engaging in an act of ethnic cleansing. Even without the mowing the lawn operation that Israel routinely has engaged in the Gaza Strip, it still doesn't change the reality. Even when it's not doing that, Israel is still maintaining an apartheid regime. Calling that out, or any kind of slogans against that being considered anti-Semitic, is silly. As I've repeated time and time again, criticizing the Saudi government, or the Saudi administration and its actions in Yemen, against the population of Yemen, which, was roundly declared ethnic cleansing and genocide, by the way, is not Islamophobic. Nobody will tell you that it's Islamophobic. You can criticize, I guess, Saudi Arabia or Qatar from an Islamophobic perspective, certainly. But on its face, criticizing Saudi for doing genocide in Yemen is not Islamophobic. Just like criticizing Israel is not anti-Semitic. That's it.
Don't you think it's odd that the only minority whose voice doesn't seem to matter to Purple Hair Girl is Jewish people? It's almost as if it's such an old, ancient form of hatred that people with evil ideologies know this.
Yeah, Hamas is like not busy fighting against an apartheid regime that is currently dealing death and destruction in Gaza, but instead is tailoring their messaging to Berkeley purple-haired girls. They're certainly always like, they're like, yeah, Abu Obaida is just like sitting in the cut, looking at Tumblr and being like, man, we are doing such a good job, such a profoundly good job, bros. I love it. Oh my God, all of these dumbasses, bro. There's like bombs blowing up ahead, upside, up top. And they're like, yes, bro, thank God, thank Allah, we found a way to get non-binary people to be on board. They obviously are the movers and shakers of American society. Everybody knows when you get non-binary people on board, that means you win the war, the moral war.
I'm not brainwashed. I just think rape is an act of resistance when people are oppressed by Zionist, colonialist, apartheid oppressors.
I've never met a single person that has said this. There is not a single person that has said that, ever. People are so desperate to defend an untenable, unmanageable position that they just make stuff up. You have to make stuff up. This is peak winning, made-up argument and shower energy. Yeah. This is seriously the Zionist equivalent of all lives matter. Yes, it is. Except the difference is everybody under a white supremacy structure kind of understands, like, unless you are literally just a predator, I guess, or just a completely delusional racist person, like a white identitarian, that, you know, anti-white sentiment is not something that is like genuinely harmful, right? It's not a real thing. It's not a real harmful thing in the same way that like anti-black sentiment is in a white supremacist society. However, anti-Semitism is real. That's the major difference here. Anti-Semitism is real. It's a real bigotry, and not in a way where, anti-white sentiment is. So these guys are using a real bigotry and trying to marry it with a false bigotry against a dominant group engaging in acts that are completely unjustifiable. That's the problem. And the hilarious part about it is that it just like completely shows like the other person being a purple-haired girl is the SJW concept, right? Like this guy is saying like, you're an SJW, you love identity politics, but it's actually bullshit. All identity politics is bullshit except for my identity. Please care about my identity politics that I'm going to weaponize, which is what Felix was saying. And he is completely correct. No one is against identity politics. They just want gushers to acknowledge them as the true protagonist of history instead of somebody else. I think he means gushers as in like, what, the purple-haired girl? Is that what he's saying? These blue-haired girls are so annoying. They don't realize that everyone wants me dead, and they're not even grateful for ways. He's just hard-failing stand-up comedian taking that APAC check, pay for his rent this month? No, I don't think that's the APAC check, okay? I think it's more so he just wants to be funny desperately while simultaneously trying to make a point. And it's very difficult to make an ideological point while you're trying to be funny to begin with. It's additionally harder to try and be funny when the ideological point you're trying to make is just not going to be received positively by a broader population. They're in the Cat 9, by the way. This is the IDF bulldozer that Caterpillar makes, specifically for the IDF. It must be nice loving what you do. Yeah. Do what you love, and every day will seem like a holiday. It will never feel like you're working. And what these guys love is reducing children's bedrooms into rubble. Just bros being dudes, man. You too sensitive. Exactly. They're singing about God protecting them. How does someone get this depraved? Because I can't believe this is real, bro. What the fuck is this? How does someone get this depraved is a great question. It's called years and years and years of maintaining an apartheid regime and the racist, agitative propaganda that you have to consistently subject your population to in an effort to maintain this apartheid. And that comes from dehumanizing Palestinians, saying they're all terrorists, saying their children are terrorists, and the like. Israel does this quite a lot. Israel has done this quite a lot. This is what happens when you do it. It's called believing everyone in Gaza is Hamas and every building is Hamas infrastructure. No, it's called believing every Muslim Arab is a terrorist too. It's not just like Gaza. I think that it's certainly beyond that. Across the board, every Arab is out to get us. We are the chosen sons. Some believe it, some don't. Doesn't matter. It's not just necessarily like feeling that you are the chosen sons and daughters of God, but instead the elitist attitude that you have as a colonial force. That elitist attitude, that superiority complex is reinforced through religion in some instances, and in other instances it could be completely devoid of religious text. But that's how it works. It's not dissimilar to white supremacy. It is very similar to white supremacy. Obviously the people are not white. Does Netanyahu believe the religious justification? I mean, I don't know. I don't know how religious he actually is. It doesn't matter, though. Religion is simply a tool, guys. Volodymyr Zelensky says, people don't understand how the occupation morally degenerates the occupier. Kind of like how Frederick Douglass talked about one of his slaveholders' wives who started out nice but got so used to slavery with time and got crueler. The idea that religion plays an active role in this conflict beyond just like reaffirming people's important beliefs to continue the maintenance of this conflict and the maintenance of this ethnic cleansing is silly. Anyone who tells you like this is a religious war is just ridiculous. They do use religious symbolism. Israel uses religious symbolism. Hamas and Palestinians use religious symbolism as well in an effort to say like, no, our cause is just. But it's way beyond that. Like religion is just seasoning. Religion is a motivator. Religion is a good and very powerful tool to motivate, galvanize, and organize. It's nothing beyond that. It's just a tool, not a real reason. We went past a segment of the broadcast, but something Israel is doing now gives vibes from the U.S. back then. Oh yeah, here. I mean, yeah, this video was made during the 2003 U.S. invasion and occupation of Iraq. At first, I thought he's putting out the fire. Then I realized that the American army was actually liberating the Iraqi palm trees from tyranny and bringing them democracy. Where did the Israelis get it from? It also reminds me of that video, but once again, it's oftentimes not the soldiers themselves posting this stuff, right? But it reminds me of that video that has remained in my mind. It's just like permanently scarred my brain of the taxi driver. I think it was in Iraq. Might have been in Afghanistan, but I think it was in Iraq. The taxi driver in Iraq coming up to the occupying American forces. They're claiming that he stole wood. The soldiers push the Iraqi taxi driver aside, and then they drive a tank over his cab, destroying his livelihood. It's like there is no need to do that. You did not need to do that at all. You just did that because you're a disgusting savage. You're a monster. And you did that specifically because you are reaffirmed by other monsters in your vicinity. You do not see the people that you're dealing with as human beings. It's brutal. Israel does that on a daily basis, is what I'm saying. And that is not good. And it's certainly not funny.